الحمد لله رب العالمين له الحمد الحسن والثناء الجميل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Inshallah ta'ala, today we're going to take the second Imam من أئمة الكتب الستة, and his name is الإمام أبو الحسين مسلم ابن الحجاج ابن مسلم ابن ورد ابن كوشاذ القشيري النيسابوري رحمه الله. الإمام مسلم, he's من والي قشير, and this great Imam comes in the level after Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. He comes second place after Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. Al-Imam al-Bukhari has the most authentic book after the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Al-Imam Muslim has the most authentic book after Bukhari's kitab. So he falls in the third place in the order. So the first is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then there is the kitab written by Imam al-Bukhari, and then there is the kitab written by Al-Imam Muslim. Bukhari conditioned authenticity in his book, his Sahih, and so did Imam Muslim. The criticism that has been placed against Imam Muslim is higher than that which has been placed against Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. The criticism, some of it is valid, and some of the criticism are invalid. And Hafiz Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, in the beginning of the kitab Fathul Bari, is called Hadiyus Sari, which is muqaddimah of Sahih al-Bukhari, Fathul Bari. It's a muqaddimah of Fathul Bari. Hafiz Ibn Hajar, in his Hadiyus Sari, Huda Sari, he really debunks a lot of the claims, accusations, and the false criticism that has been targeted against Al-Imam al-Bukhari's work. He has, rahimahullah, took it upon himself, Hafiz ibn Hajar, to really debunk it and to straighten the narrative, so to say. And Al-Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, to a high extent, did something similar to the kitab Sahih Muslim, where whenever he would come across a hadith, he would discuss the criticism that has been put against the hadith, for or against. And in a lot of situations he would debunk those who have gone wrong in their criticism against Al-Imam Muslim Sahih. Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah, his life is full of knowledge. Till the last moment he passed away, his life rahimahullah, it is full of ilm and fadl and virtue. And Al-Imam Muslim, the virtues of his knowledge, it shows you the way he traveled to seek knowledge. He traveled to so many lands in order to attain knowledge. And one of the greatest opportunities Allah gave Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah was to meet the great, profound scholar, which was from his oldest shuyukhs, is Abdullah ibn Maslamat al-Qa'nabi. Okay, so Imam Muslim, that's the oldest shaykh that he has. And Abdullah ibn Maslamat al-Qa'nabi is the student of Imam Malik rahimahullah. And if Muslim took that route, okay, the route through Abdullah ibn Maslamat al-Qa'nabi, Muslim would have had thulathiyat in his Sahih, just like Bukhari does. He would have had some thulathiyat, meaning between him and the Prophet would be 3 people. Okay? But what had happened was Muslim avoided the narration or the chain through Abdullah ibn Maslamat al-Qa'nabi. And the scholars of hadith would never avoid a short chain of narration. They would try their best to have the shortest narration to the Prophet ﷺ. And the reason why Muslim avoided that and chose not to take that chain, that short chain, was because Abdullah ibn Maslamat al-Qa'nabi, the chain through him goes through Salamat ibn Wardan. Abu Salamat ibn Wardan is a person Muslims saw to be weak. So he avoided it because of that. Okay. Also, he heard from Ahmad ibn Yunus and a Jama'ah. And this was from the early stages of his life. He also heard from Yahya ibn Yahya at-Tamimi. He managed to hear from him, rahimahullahu rahmatan wasi'a. Muslim traveled to Iraq, Al-Haramain. He traveled to also even Misr. He traveled, rahimahullah, rahmatan wasi'a. ولذلك it was mentioned about Imam Muslim, rahimahullah, as Ahmad ibn Salama said, who is a student of Imam Muslim, and one of his narrators said, ما رأيت, I never saw أبا زرعة وأبا حاتم, يعني الرازيان, Abu Zur'a and Abu Hatim are من أئمة الكبار. They're from the senior scholars of hadith. They are prolific individuals. They are illustrious, bona fide individuals in their grasp of the knowledge of hadith. And they were peers of Al-Imam Ahmad. Okay, and they were revising with Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Abu Zur'a and Abu Hatim al-Razi. So Ahmad ibn Salam is saying this, ما رأيت, I never saw Abu Hatim and Abu Zur'a يقدماني, that they ever put anybody before يقدماني, that they ever put anyone before Muslim and Imam Muslim. I never saw that. في معرفة الصحيح, when it came to knowing the authentic hadiths, على مشايخ عصرهما. When it comes to the scholars of that time, Abu Hatim and Abu Zur'a would never put anyone before Imam Muslim, which again gives you an insight, gives you an understanding now that he is not a lightweight. That Muslim, rahimahullah, when it comes to this field of hadith, he is no way, shape or form a lightweight. Imam Muslim was known to have high aspirations. This is a quality a Muslim strives for. It's a quality that a person should look for, is to have high aspiration. It's to have a drive, a motivation, consistency, continuation, doing things, getting to the bottom of it. It's a sign of a person who is looking for something beyond this worldly benefits. Okay? That's why as Muslims, our aspiration, our drive and our motive is more than the dunya. We are connected, inshallah ta'ala, to the hereafter, akhirah, rida Allahi, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Imam Muslim had that aspiration, he had that high aspiration, rahimahullahu rahmatan wasi'a. So it was mentioned in his biography that عقد مجلس المذاكرة, a gathering was set for revision. They said, today we're going to revise. They're going to go over a hadith, a set of hadiths. So they mentioned a hadith لم يعرفوا, that Muslim didn't know. They actually stated a hadith that Imam Muslim لم يعرفوا, did not know it. He thought about it and he just did not know it. Look at the aspiration he had. فانصرف إلى منزله, he went back to his house. Imam Muslim returned back to his house and he sat down and he said to his family, so he came back to the house. When he came back to the house, the narration actually says, وَأَوْقَدَ السِّرَاجِ وَأَوْقَدَ السِّرَاج. He lightened the lantern or the lamp, and he sat down to revise the hadith that he apparently felt he didn't hear of. And then he instructed the family members in the house, وَقَالَ لِمَنْ فِي الدَّارِ لَا يَدْخُلُ عَلَيَّ أَحَدٌ. No one is allowed to enter onto me. لَا يَدْخُلُ أَحَدٌ مِنْكُمْ. Not one of you should enter onto me. And then they said to him, before you close that door, before you leave us, and before we are unable to communicate with you, there is a basket where it's just come to us and there is date inside it. Okay, there is date inside it. So Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he took the date and he ate and carried eating, and he basically finished what was in the basket. He had finished what was in the basket, and he had found the hadith. And Al-Imam Abu Abdullah Al-Hakim Al-Naysaburi, Sahibu Kitab Al-Mustadrak, mentions this was the cause of his death. Whose death? The death of Al-Imam Muslim. I'm trying to collect, at this current moment in my life, I'm trying my best to collect and gather the benefits that I come across in books. Any benefits I come across, I try to make a heading for it, and I place it in a book for myself. I scribble it down in a book for myself. Now technology, I don't write it anymore. I put it inside my document, my Microsoft Word document. And in there I have written a heading where I've mentioned people who I felt died because of diabetes. And I feel, wallahu a'lam, knowledge is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I haven't seen anyone precede me in this view, but I think maybe what Muslim died from could have been diabetes. He took too much sugar, consumed it, and he didn't know that he had diabetes, and that could have possibly been the death of his. And so I'm trying my best to look at any Islamic ulama from the Salaf who had actually suffered from sugar, and I've come across a few, one of them being Al-Imam a Muslim. So it's just a side benefit to write down. But again, it shows you, subhanallah, that he had finished an entire basket. He sat there and he ate and he ate and he ate and he carried on eating and didn't stop, only to just find one hadith. After having traveled the world, after having heard so much hadith and so much narrations, even at that time, in that moment of his life, he still felt like, I haven't heard this certain hadith. He is shocked that he hasn't heard a hadith. And as you all know, Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i, the great scholar, has a kitab called Jumma'ul Ilm. Imam Shafi'i has a kitab called Jumma'ul Ilm. And you all know Imam Shafi'i is the scholar who brought together the science of Usul al-Fiqh. It was Al-Imam al-Shafi'i who brought together the science of Usul al-Fiqh. As the poet said, وأول من ألف في الكتب محمد بن الشافعي المطلب وغيره كان له سليقة مثل الذي للعرب من خليقة. So Imam al-Shafi'i was the first person who had authored in the science of Usul al-Fiqh. He's the first person who wrote it. Usul al-Fiqh would loosely translate as the legal Islamic rulings or legal Islamic principles which the religion is built on. Imam Shafi'i wrote an entire treaty in this field, the famous kitab al-Risala that we have matbu' mutadawal. And this kitab was written just so a person can have a methodology or a correct methodology in how they could understand, internalize and digest the information that is in the Quran. It gives you the tools, the instrument to be able to go to the Quran and the Sunnah and extract rulings from it. It is a stepping stone to becoming a person who is called a mujtahid. After you've studied that kitab or you study that field of in the religion called Usul al-Fiqh, you are able to now become a mujtahid, a person who can do independent reasoning in the legal Islamic sense. So Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he authored in that science, usul al-fiqh, and that doesn't mean he was the only person who knew it, and before that it wasn't known. It was known before that. It was more present in the time of the companions as something that the scholars called sariqa. Sariqa meaning there was an innate ability rather than a theoretical observation. They knew it innately. So just like an Arab speaks Arabic fluently, knows the grammatical rulings by not going to a Jurumiyah, which is a grammar book, or Alfiyat ibn Malik, which is also a grammar book, an Arab would just be able to speak it. Imru al-Qais, for example, wouldn't have to study the Arabic grammar. He wouldn't need to, because he is an Arab, and when he speaks grammatically correct. Just like a person who knows the English language, grew up in an English-speaking society, would be able to speak the English language grammatically correct, with all of its syntactical rulings and the semantics being observed, the phonetics as well, and phonology of the pronunciation, the articulation of the words will be all correct because they grew up in an environment or society like that. So Shafi'i rahimahullah was a person who was similar to that, or the Salaf were like that in usul al-fiqh, until Shafi'i rates it for people who were not acquainted with the usul al-fiqh, or they didn't know how to extract rulings from the Quran and the Sunnah. Innovation was on the rise. Greek, Aristotle, Plato, and Socratism, all of that was being translated and converted into the Arabic language. People were becoming distanced from the Quranic discourse, and so now this was causing riffraff between the Salaf and the innovators of that time. So a science known as usul al-fiqh was documented. So the reason I mentioned in all of this is because an Imam Muslim, which is the person whose biography we're talking about, and that was istidrad. I went off topic, talking about Imam Shafi'i, but Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he had high aspiration. And that high aspiration of his led to just wanting to find out one hadith, something he's been all his entire life engrossed in, but is at a point in his life where he hasn't seen a certain hadith. And so the reason why I mentioned Shafi'i was because Shafi'i says that there is no one who's actually memorized the entirety of hadiths. So it's natural for you to come across a hadith that you've never heard of. The Quran, we've got thousands, maybe millions of people who memorize the Quran on the globe today. But the hadiths of the Prophet, which is the prophetic tradition, the statements of the Prophet and his actions, no one on the face of this earth is actually able to claim that they've memorized it all. You're going to find out or hear of hadiths that you've never heard of. You've never heard of. And as time goes on, the hadiths that are heard are going to be are very limited and small. We have today people who've not heard of hadiths which are in Bukhari. Okay? We have people who haven't heard hadiths which are in Umdatul Ahkam or Bulugh al-Maram, which are small books. You see, so as time goes on, the knowledge of hadith reduces, and the Prophet did tell us, alayhi salatu wasalam, that every 100 years there's going to become a reviver who's going to revive the science and bring back that which has been lost. So it's natural for a Muslim not to hear a certain hadith. And imagine in a gathering where they're revising hadiths, and he's only, there's only one hadith he hasn't heard from all the hadiths that were mentioned, and that then pushed him to go to his house and to sit down and to read until he finds that hadith in his works, if he's ever come across it and if he's ever heard of it before. This really shows you the dedication, the mindset, and the energy and the enthusiasm that Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah possessed. Al-Imam Muslim is considered min al-thiqat al-athbat, What that means is that he's considered from the most reliable, genuine, and precise in knowledge. And he had precision in his knowledge. And this science of hadith, Allah made it subhanahu wa ta'ala so easy for Al-Imam Muslim rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. And the reason why I'm mentioning these biographies is not to quote like I normally do, quote so many references and statements regarding a certain Imam. My aim from these series is to take 2 or 3 incidents in the life of this certain Imam and to just shed light on it, so that you who's listening can think about it and say, wow, how can someone who's a human like I am, who's been in this world for like أعمار الأمة, the life of a natural, normal person. But for example, an Imam Abu Uthman Sibawayh rahimahullah, he was a what? Abu Uthman Amr ibn Qambar. They say that he was 38, Sibawayh, when he passed away. Imagine that. 38 years of age, and you're the Imam of the Arabic language. What does that show you? Like, you can reach an Imam at a very young age, that you just exert a lot of efforts into it. And again, it sparked for Imam Sibawayh as well. Just like Imam Muslim here, these small things that we take very lightly, but they don't. These great scholars didn't. So for example, Imam Sibawayh rahimahullah, at the age of 38, he passes away. But prior to that, what is he into? He wanted to learn hadith. He went to his teacher Hamad ibn Salamah, or Hamad ibn Zayd, I think, one of the two Hamads. He wanted to learn hadith from him. And he pronounced it and he read it wrong. And then his teacher said to him, Hamad, he said, Lahanta ya Farisi, you've spoken grammatically wrong. O Farisi, O you Persian. And then look what he said. Look at the type of person he is. We would have said, oh, look at you, you're abusing me mentally, you're trying to put me down. We have not got what these people had, subhanAllah. You can see the way that time has changed. So he says to him, Lahanta ya Farisi, O Farisi, you've spoken grammatically wrong. And then Imam Sibawayh, he says, La ata'allamanna ilman la yulahhinuni fihi ahad. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to study a science, and I'm going to learn Arabic language. And from this day onwards, no one is ever going to say to me, you grammatically spoke wrong. I also read one time that an Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah was one day writing, I think it was Alamuddin al-Barzali, I don't know who it was exactly, I'm not too sure. But Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah was writing, and I think it was Alamuddin al-Barzali saw an Imam Dhahabi writing. I'm not too sure, but don't quote me on that. He saw him writing, and he said to him, your writing is similar, and it resembles the handwriting of the people of Hadith. And at that time, Dhahabi wasn't into the science of Hadith, he was preoccupied with the science of Quran, al-ulum al-Quran, al-qira'at and stuff like that. So when he said that to him, and Imam Dhahabi rahimahullah sparked a thought into his mind, and then they said he embarked on learning the science of Hadith until he became who? He became who we know now as to be one of the greatest historians. He has one of the biggest encyclopedia on the narrators. His famous kitab Sir A'lam al-Nubala, لا يستغني عنه الطالب العلم. A student of knowledge cannot be without it, especially a person of hadith. He cannot be without the kitab Sir A'lam al-Nubala by Imam al-Dhahabi, where the person can read the biography and the life of every single individual in the science of hadith. You could find their names and their biography in that kitab. That man, Dhahabi, embarked on that path of learning hadith, which again, to be honest, is one of the most complicated sciences. He went to study that and learn it after he, rahimahullah, was told that his handwriting is similar to the handwriting of the people of hadith. So, again, as I said, this series is not to go deeply into the biography of an Imam, a Muslim, and talk about what the scholars said about him and where he traveled to and whatnot. It's just to qatafat, just points here and there, shed some light on it, and ask you and myself where we are at when it comes to these great scholars. What have we got? Okay. So now, inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to take your questions, inshallah ta'ala. Anything which I have said that was wrong or incorrect is from me and shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are both free from it. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdi, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. So if you have any questions, you can put your questions forward, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to take your questions now. Anyone have any questions, inshallah ta'ala? Okay, so one question, sorry, I just saw it. And Ustad, what do we Sunnis believe about Hujr ibn Adi and Ziyad ibn Abihi? Hujr ibn Adi radiallahu ta'ala anhu is a Sahabi, okay? And he was accused of doing khuruj of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. But the reality of the matter is, he didn't do khuruj to Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. He was actually against, as it said, the oppression that was done by Ziyad, which was the wali of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. And they said he spoke harshly to him. Hujr ibn Adi is said, soon, I haven't come across any certain narrations for it, but they say that he spoke to him harshly, and he passed away radiallahu ta'ala anhu. When the Islamic group, when the Islamic calendar was the 50th, I think, or the 51st, something like that, he died, and he was around 80, 81 or 80 something years of age, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He participated in many of the fights that happened, even the one And this is why a lot of issues have taken place, because he was with Ali ibn Abi Talib in the Waq'atul Jamal, who was on Ali's side, also with him in the Battle of Siffin, hence why the Shia and everything are sympathizers of his, and etc. And Allah knows best, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sheikh, is it a person sinful for discouraging his father to not get a second wife because his mum does not want it? Is there any of his business to tell him not to? Marrying a second or a third or a fourth wife is not haram. Of course, it's something Allah legislated in the religion. It is something that is permissible. But if marrying a second or a third or a fourth wife will create a bigger problem, okay, which will then result in the first family getting destroyed and the children all over the place, and they're not going to have both their parents, then of course, and again they're in a land of the non-Muslims and things like that, then without a shadow of a doubt, it wouldn't be right to then get married, because of the greater harm that is going to come from it. So if the situation is like that, where it's intense, where it's going to become harmful for the relationship, where the mother may even leave or ask for divorce after the husband gets married, and a greater harm will come from it, and children will scatter. In a situation like that, it may be of no little hikmah, little wisdom to go and get married again. And I would say maybe present the facts to your father in that situation. It's islah, to bring khair, inshallah ta'ala. But if the father wants to get married, I mean, he's entitled to, he's allowed to. There's nothing wrong with him doing so now. Ustadh, is the hadith about leaving the Abyssinians and the Turks alone sahih? From what I remember, the narration that mentions leave the Ahbash ma tarakukum, as long as they leave you, seems to be authentic. From some of the scholars took that the jihad al-talab is not done, the offensive jihad is not done with the Turks and the Abyssinians. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Some companies mandate having business insurance on smaller companies to work with them. Is it haram to engage with them for this reason? If the insurance is not riba based, interest based, but rather the thing that it has is, because there are types of insurances, if the it's not riba based, but rather gambling and things like that only, and it hasn't got riba issues involved in it like that, then inshallah ta'ala, with it being still haram, but because there's a hajah here for it, then inshallah ta'ala it becomes permissible, inshallah. A lady who is 35 weeks pregnant, can she sit and make sujood? If she is able to make sujood normally, she finds it a bit difficult to go down. If it's just difficulties and it's not like harm or pain or anything like that, then she has to do it. The Prophet said, صَلِّ قَائِمًا فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَى جَنْبٍ. Ability is connected to it. If she can, and it won't be harm to her or the baby, then she should do it. If it's just uncomfortable and you can't be bothered, and then that would not lift the obligation from you. You still have to do it. But if it's pain you're feeling, okay, physical pain, or if you go to sujood, you're not going to be able to get up again. In that situation, then no, sit down and pray sitting rather than do the sujood. Ustad, is there a book on different khutbatul hajas and how it can be said? Because I hear a lot of scholars and students saying it in different ways, especially Sheikh Salih al-Usaymin. Khutbatul haja is the one that the Prophet did. Inna alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh, and that is the best, as it's something that the Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam. And Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah has a risala where he collected the riwayat and the narrations on the one that the Prophet said. As for the one that people have said after that, it differs from one person to another. Everybody changes it based on their language and the Arabic that they know, give and take. So there isn't a book that collects all of the different types of khutbatul hajj. I haven't come across that. It's everyone just makes up their own version because what is required at the beginning is to praise Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, send salutation on the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and you say amma ba'du, to make dua for the believers and etc. That's the main requirement, and any wordings you want to change or add or subtract, everyone does it themselves. But the best is to say inna alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. Sheikh, you said that Bukhari transmitted ijma' that khuruj against an oppressive Muslim ruler is haram, but someone showed that Bukhari did not mention the word oppressive. Can you explain, Ustad? I don't know anybody who would want to go against a reliable, honest, just ruler. Why would somebody want to go against a just ruler? It's insane. Someone wanting to go against a just ruler, a ruler that's fair, who's giving you your rights, is not oppressing you. Why would somebody want to go against them? Why would Bukhari have to tell those people not to go against a just, fair ruler? Everyone would go against a ruler on the grounds they believe that that ruler is oppressive. That's the problem here. There is not a person who would ever say to you, I'm going against this ruler, I know he's just, but I'm still going against him. Everyone who goes against a ruler is going against him on the premise that he is oppressive. And claiming that this ruler is oppressive is shay which is غير منضبط. For example, the people who went against Uthman radiallahu anhu were saying Uthman is oppressive. So those who say that it's allowed to go against an oppressive Muslim ruler would have to allow anyone who says this ruler is oppressive, he's entitled to go against that ruler. Because I believe he is oppressive. Who determines what is oppression or not? Who says that this is oppression? It is not oppression. Who says it? Everybody has their way of seeing oppression. What about if he oppressed me and he didn't oppress other people? And then if you say, no, it has to be a collective oppression, then where did you get that from? Separating individual oppression and collective oppression. عرفتم? So it's just this is the reason why the doors of the Sharia close this door. If it's oppressive, be patient, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will judge between you the day of judgment. Ustaz, some people say that the hadith of an ijma' on rebelling and criticizing a ruler behind their back is not valid for current times because we are not in a khilafat. How do you respond to this? The Prophet ﷺ and the rules that were given to him is never restricted to time. Allah Ta'ala knew what was going to come and what was going to take place. And these rulings are not restricted to time and place. This religion is meant to govern إِلَىٰ أَن يَرِثَ اللَّهُ الْأَرْضَ وَمَنْ عَلَيْهَا. نعم. Also, in Islamic history, there was always a number of leaderships that were happening at the same time. The Islamic Khilafah never always governed, not always the case. They didn't govern every single place. Some places they were not under the Khilafah. Those places did not fall under another place, which is what the scholars call ta'addudu duwal, ta'addudu al-imarat. Yani there's different imara and different leaderships. Each country had their own, or each region had their own. So there was breaking that had happened as early as the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Muawiyah didn't fall under Ali. Muawiyah didn't give bay'ah to Ali. Muawiyah was running his own affairs whilst Ali wanted Muawiyah to fall under him. Okay? Now, Sheikh AbdulRahman, how is it that you find one hadith with different narrations? It's very, very confusing. What do you mean by that? Do you mean like, how do I find it, where I can get it from? Or how can a hadith have different wordings? Is that what your question is? I don't understand which of those two it is. What is Aqidah of Jamaluddin al-Mizzi, Abu al-Hajjaj al-Mizzi? Al-Hajjaj al-Mizzi's Aqidah seemed like to be Aqidah Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. There isn't anything I can say that he's not min Ahl Sunnah, especially the fact that Imam Mizzi rahimahullah when at the time of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, Abu al-Hajjaj al-Mizzi sat down to read the kitab Khalq Af'al al-Ibad. And when he sat down to read it, the Asha'ira of that time put him in behind bars, Abu al-Hajjaj al-Mizzi. Okay? They put him behind bars. And Ibn Taymiyyah was the one who took him out of prison. Personally, Ibn Taymiyyah went to prison and actually took the chains off him and brought him out of prison. The kitab he was reading was Khalq Af'al al-Ibad. Now, okay. In the past, you used to refute people of misguidance by name, but now haven't refuted the well-known individuals who is changing the meanings of the word ibadah. Why haven't you done so? In Islam, the concept of refutation is not a fardu ayn. Not every single person has to do it. If a group of people do it, the rest of the people don't have to all do it. It's a fardu kifaya, it's a communal obligation. Everybody doesn't have to do it. If a group of people have done it, their obligation is lifted from the rest. And not in every situation is it good to name the people. Sometimes it's just good to keep it as فَمَا بَالُ أَقْوَامٍ. What is the situation of the people? أي نعم. Ustadh, is Umdatul Ahkam with the tahqiq of Ahmed Shakir good for memorization? The best tahqiq of Umdatul Ahkam, the wording of Umdatul Ahkam, is the tahqiq of Nadar al-Firyabi. That's the best one. Now, even recently I came across the one Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Qasim did. It seems good, Allahumma barik. His one seems very good, mashallah as well. Ustadh, when the Mongols ended the Abbasid Khilafah, how long was it until the next Khilafah, and how did the scholars deal with the lack of Khilafah? The Mongols, they did come to Iraq and they killed the the Khulafa and the Umara of that time. And the reason why that was done by Genghis Khan is because the Muslims had killed the messenger that was sent to them, which was something they shouldn't have done. So when they did that, it angered him, and he sent an army to Baghdad, and he destroyed the Muslims. He massacred them, okay, butchered them. And subhanallah, from the istihza'at and the mockery of the statements that he said was, I am a wrath, sent from your Lord. I am a punishment sent to you from your Lord. And things like that he said to the Muslims. And if you read what happened and the way things were done to the Muslims, your heart will cry, wallahi. But I don't know exactly the duration of and how things were. I can't recall it properly right now, exactly what had happened after that. This is something I read a long time back. نعم. I'll take the last question, inshallah ta'ala. Ustadh, are we allowed to put flowers on top of graves? No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't put flowers on top of graves. And if somebody uses the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet ﷺ marra ala qabrayni, he went by two graves, hadith sahihain. He said, أما أحدهما فكان يمشي بين الناس بالنميمة وأما الآخر فكان لا يستنزه من البول. The Prophet went by a grave, alayhi salatu wasalam, and when he went by the grave, he said that this person used to urinate on themselves, and this one he didn't protect. Yeah, and he used to walk around tail bearing. And then the Prophet took a twig and he put it on top of the grave, and then he said, the punishment will be reduced for these two people as long as this flower or this twig is moist. Some people took from that it's permissible to do that for all the graves, and we say this is min khasa'is Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's only restricted for the Prophet alayhi salatu. I said that would be the last question I take, inshallah ta'ala. I'll end it there, inshallah ta'ala. Anything which I said that was wrong or incorrect is from me and shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are both free from it. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdi, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.